All right, so get this. France's government just collapsed, like totally imploded. It's huge EE. The first time this has happened in over 60 years. And, we're going to break it all down.
Yeah, it's wild, right? Like, 1 minute things seem stable, the next, bam, total political earthquake.
Exactly. And we've got a whole stack of articles to help us make sense of it all. We've got Sky News, BBC, the Atlantic Council, even Al Jazeera. Everyone's weighing in.
It's going to be fascinating to see how all these different perspectives come together.
Totally. So let's rewind a bit. First things first. Can you remind us what happened back in July with the snap election?
Right, so the July election resulted in what's called a Hun parliament.
Yeah.
No single party got a majority of the seats.
Okay, so like a political stalemate?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Which meant that the Prime Minister, Michel Barnier.
Oh, right, the guy Macron appointed just 3 months ago?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
He was facing an uphill battle right from the get-go. He couldn't just rely on his own party's votes. He needed to build alliances, make compromises. The whole political dance.
And this is the guy who was the EU's chief Brexit negotiator, right? Talk about a master of navigating tricky situations.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But even the most seasoned negotiators can stumble when the stakes are this high.
So true. So let's talk about this budget. That seems to be where things really went off the rails.
Yeah, Barnier was trying to push through this super ambitious budget plan.
I saw something about like a 60 billion euro deficit reduction. That's a crazy amount.
It is, and it meant some pretty drastic measures. Tax hikes, spending cuts, stuff that was going to hit everyone pretty hard, from everyday folks to big businesses.
No wonder people were freaking out. I mean, 60 billion? That's got to be like what? Almost half of France's entire budget?
Yeah, it was a bold move for sure. And to make matters worse, Barnier decided to use special powers to bypass a parliamentary vote.
Wait, he could do that?
Yeah, it's like this provision in the French Constitution that lets the Prime Minister pass certain laws without a full vote. It's supposed to be for emergencies or when they need to act fast.
Ah, so like a political trump card?
It's exactly. But it's also super risky. Like playing with fire. If you use it at the wrong time or for the wrong reasons, it can backfire big time.
And that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, by going around Parliament, Barnier basically alienated everyone, even people in his own coalition. It was seen as a huge power grab, and it gave the opposition the perfect excuse to unite against him.
And that's where we see the far-right National Rally and the left-wing New Popular Front joining forces, right?
Yep, a total odd couple.
Mm.
But they both saw this as an attack on democracy.
Talk about strange bedfellows. I mean, these groups rarely agree on anything.
Right. It shows just how much Barnier messed up.
So they called for a no-confidence vote, and, well, the rest is history.
Yeah. The vote was overwhelmingly against Barnier, way more than they needed to kick him out. It was a total rejection of his leadership.
It's amazing how quickly it all fell apart, like a house of cards.
Just goes to show you how unpredictable politics can be. One wrong move, and it's all over.
So much for being a master negotiator, huh?
Sometimes even the best laid plans, they fall apart.
They really do. All right, so Barnier's out. But what about Macron? He's the one who appointed him. So surely this is going to have some serious consequences for him, too.
Oh, absolutely. Let's dig into that right after the break.
Yeah, I mean, Barnier's gone, but Macron's still there, right? He can't just escape this whole mess unscathed.
Oh, he's definitely feeling the pressure. The opposition is already calling for his resignation. Like, they want him to step down completely.
Wow, that's intense. So are they going to have new elections then?
Well, not so fast. The French Constitution has some pretty specific rules about that.
Oh, right. There's always a catch.
Yeah. They can't hold new parliamentary elections until July at the earliest. So for now, France is kind of stuck in this weird political limbo.
Yikes. So what's Macron going to do? I read that he's giving a big speech to the nation tonight. Any guesses what he'll say?
It's anyone's guess, really.
Yeah.
But I imagine he'll try to project an image of strength.
Yeah.
Reassure everyone that he's got this.
But can he really do that? I mean, with the parliament so divided and everyone calling for his head.
It's a tough spot to be in, for sure. He might try to lay out a new plan, address some of the concerns that led to this whole debacle.
But how can he get anything done without a functioning parliament?
Right. That's the million-dollar question. Some experts are saying he might have to form a coalition government.
Like team up with one of the opposition parties.
Exactly. Which could mean some serious compromises on his part.
Especially if he ends up working with the New Popular Front. Those guys are pretty far left.
It would be a huge shift for him. He's always presented himself as this centrist figure.
So what are the chances he actually goes for it?
Hard to say. It's a risky move, but it might be his only option if he wants to stay in power.
Man, this is getting complicated. Okay, so we've talked about the politics of it all,
Yeah.
but what about the bigger picture? I mean, what does all this turmoil mean for France itself?
Well, France was already facing some economic headwinds, even before this whole political crisis.
Right. I remember reading about their debt and their deficit. It wasn't pretty.
Exactly. And this whole situation is probably going to make things worse.
Yeah.
It erodes confidence, spooks investors, creates uncertainty,
All the ingredients for a recipe for disaster.
pretty much. And it's not just France that we need to be thinking about.
Hmm.
This could have major ripple effects throughout Europe.
Because France is such a key player in the EU.
Exactly. They're one of the founding members, and they've always had a huge influence on EU policy.
So if France is weak and unstable, that's going to weaken the whole EU.
Precisely. Especially with Germany also going through some political changes right now.
Like the two biggest pillars of the EU are wobbling at the same time.
Yeah, it's a bit unnerving. It could create a power vacuum that other countries might try to exploit.
This is giving me some serious geopolitical anxiety. So what does all this mean for the average person? Like someone listening to this right now, should we be worried?
Well, it's definitely a reminder that we live in a very interconnected world. What happens in one country can have far-reaching consequences.
Like that butterfly effect thing.
Exactly. We can't just ignore what's happening in other parts of the world, even if it seems far away.
Because those events can eventually come back to bite us.
They can impact everything from the prices we pay for goods to the stability of our own political systems.
So even if we don't live in France, we should still be paying attention.
Absolutely. It's a
Yeah.
good reminder to stay informed and engaged with what's happening in the world around us.
And that's something we should all strive for, no matter where we live or what we do.
Agreed. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today. The collapse of the French government, Macron's precarious position, the potential economic fallout, the implications for the EU.
It's been quite a deep dive.
It has, and it leaves us with a lot to think about.
Absolutely. But before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Imagine you're Macron. You're facing this impossible situation, a fractured parliament, a disillusioned public, a mountain of challenges. What would you do?
It's a question with no easy answers, but it's one worth pondering. It challenges us to think critically, to engage with complex issues, to consider different perspectives.
And to recognize that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, there's always hope for a better future.
Well said. So as we sign off, we encourage you to continue exploring these issues. Stay curious, stay engaged, and keep those minds buzzing.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic, ready to unpack its complexities and extract those valuable nuggets of knowledge. Until then, stay informed and stay engaged.
Until next time.
Yeah, it really makes you think, like what does it all mean for us here?
It's a good question. I think it's easy to get caught up in the headlines, the big picture stuff, but we have to remember that these events have real consequences for real people.
Absolutely. So how do we make sense of it all? Like, how do we navigate this crazy world where everything feels so interconnected?
Well, for me, it's all about staying informed,
Yeah.
like actively seeking out information from a variety of sources.
So not just passively scrolling through social media.
Right, exactly. It's about digging deeper, challenging our own assumptions, and being willing to listen to perspectives that might be different from our own.
So basically being an active participant in the world, not just a spectator.
Exactly. And that's not always easy. It takes effort, it takes time,
Mm.
but it's so important, especially in today's world.
Because knowledge is power, right?
It really is. The more we understand the world around us, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions.
And to navigate the inevitable challenges that come our way.
Exactly. So let's bring this back to France for a second.
Sure.
We've talked about Barnier's mistakes, Macron's dilemma, the economic fallout, the potential impact on the EU. But here's a thought. What if you were in Macron's shoes right now?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one.
It is, right? I mean, you got a fractured parliament, a disillusioned public, a whole bunch of economic problems. What would you do?
I honestly don't know. I mean, there are no easy answers.
Exactly. But that's the point. It's about engaging with these complex issues, thinking critically, trying to come up with solutions.
And recognizing that even in the face of adversity, there's always hope.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the French government collapse, we want to leave you with that thought. Stay curious, stay engaged,
Yeah.
and keep those minds buzzing.
And never underestimate the power of informed action. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic, ready to unpack its complexities and extract those valuable nuggets of knowledge. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay curious.
Until next time.